Breathe. Good morning. I'm Bill DeWeese, professional voiceover talent, voiceover coach, wishing I could breathe a little bit better this morning, but this is not really what I'm talking about. But I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the live stream. We do this every day at this time. I share a tip, trick, strategy, something to help further you down the road of voiceover success. And I'm so glad you're here. I appreciate you taking the time to join me every weekday morning. A lot of folks are already on the live stream. Take a second, if you would, just share your name and where you're watching or listening from this morning. I'll do a little roll call here in just a bit. Also, take a moment if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, like, share all those things. Encourage YouTube to share this video with as many people as possible who are looking to figure their way through the jungle of of voiceover. So I saw a quote, excuse me, not long ago. I don't remember who said it, where I saw it, but I thought it was so profound I made a note of it. And it is this: space is the breath of art. Space is the breath of art. Have you ever known somebody who never stopped to breathe when they talked? They had so much going on here that when they opened up their mouth, it was just like a torrent that that didn't stop. There was never a break. It just comes at you and comes at you and comes at you. Have you noticed how ineffective that kind of communication is to somebody who has well thought out thoughts that they speak in short, concise phrases and leave time for them and for you to think about? This all applies to voiceover. Um, one of the things, and I say this from my own experience, because one of the big struggles that I had early on was learning to 2 things that 2 things, 2 of a number of things, but 2 really important things I had to learn. One was to slow down, and one was just to breathe. Take the time to breathe. Now, many of you will understand the idea of coming from a broadcast background, where this concept, especially if you come from a radio background, this concept is virtually unheard of because it's all about filling the airwaves, and it's all about advertisers trying to cram as much as they can into their 10, 15, or 30 seconds that they have with their ads. And there's seems to be an overriding philosophy that more is better, that denser is better. But if space is the breath of art, and I believe it is, then I think there's a lot here to learn. And over time, it took me a while, and it took a couple of years and a lot of comments from directors saying, "Slow down, slow down, slow down." I had been in this, for over 20 years. I'd been in this mode of boom, 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 boom. That was my career, and I was pretty good at that. But what I learned was that to be a really good communicator and to be competitive as a voiceover talent, I had to shed that mindset. And so I want you to give this some thought today, that maybe even make a note of it, write it down, post it in your studio. Space is the breath of art. And let's talk specific. And then this applies, by the way, to I don't care if it's music, I don't care if it's painting, it doesn't matter what kind of creation. I'm saying art, but listen, any kind of creation. Space is important. Most of us, especially here in the West, where things are so we don't give room for space. Even you hear people talk about prayer and meditation, but most people, when they talk about prayer, they're talking about talking. They got a lot on their mind. They need to get it out, get it out, get it out. I think one of the things the East got right was they understood and they understand the value of allowing space, allowing nothing, kind of blanking out to allow things to penetrate into your own consciousness. Because you don't learn when you're always pushing out what the little bit you've got between your ears. We have to create some space to hear and to understand. As it relates specifically to voiceover, space allows time for you to better understand and absorb, to see, hear, and think about what you're talking about. And it allows the listener to absorb and to understand the story that you're sharing, whether it's an audiobook or whether it's a commercial, even a fast read commercial, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And of course, some projects allow you the luxury of being leisurely. Audiobooks, E-learning, perhaps longer form corporate type narration where you can see, "Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I can allow some breaths in there. I can allow some space." By the way, space is uncomfortable for most people. You have to learn to live with that space because what feels like a long time to you is not so long for everybody else who's listening. But when it comes to, let's say, things that are timed, so those of you who are reading audiobooks, I'm sure this resonates and it's easy to understand, easy to execute. If you're doing commercials, it's a whole different ballgame. Somebody gives you a script and says, "This has to hit 20 seconds." That happens a lot. I do, TV promos or commercials, and I've got a time that I have to hit, as I'm sure most of you do as well. But here's the thing I've learned, that even when I'm under a timer and I have to hit these marks, that as I'm preparing to do the work, see, because where I come from, I would rip, I would read, and I've always started off thinking, "Okay, well, I've gotta go fast to make this fit." And so, that's my go-to. That's my default mode is to hit hard and go fast. But I've learned, and I'm still learning, is that even if it's a fast read, I need to start it slow. I need to read it slow to myself. I need to understand the nuance that's involved. I need to understand where I need to allow, even in a fast read, there has to be some space, someplace, even if it's just in the inflection in the way you talk. And so by starting slow, and that's how I work with a commercial, I start slow. I read slow. I meander through the script so that I allow my consciousness or my subconsciousness to begin to pick up what's going on there so that I have a deeper understanding. Magically, as that happens, once I've read through that 2, 3, 4 times, now I'm able to actually read it very fast, but read it with a sense of understanding and authority. Whereas when I hit it full blast head on from the first take, there's no way because I haven't absorbed what's going on. So even in these times where it's time restricted and you're on a timer and you've got to hit the 10, 15, 20, 30-second, whatever length of time that you have, start by reading slow, methodical. Take your time, let it kind of wash over you, absorb it, visualize the story. Second time through, pick up the pace a little more, and then until you are able to get that down to time, and when you do that, you'll be amazed. My reads now are so much more effective, even these super fast reads that I have to do oftentimes, like for retail commercials, that kind of thing. Even the kind that are annoying, and they're loud, and they're, aggressive, and I understand what I'm saying, and I understand how to deal with the phrasing. I understand how to I'm communicating far better because I start from a stance of slowness, allowing silence, allowing space so I can understand, and then I can more easily time compress with each consecutive read. I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope that helps you because I think most in my experience of working with so many students, I think most people by default feel like they have to attack, first take out, you know, and they're so focused on the performing and hearing and how they sound. They don't understand that the silence is as important as the noise that they make. It's just as important in terms of your performance and most importantly, in terms of the understanding and the comprehension and how compelling that communication is to the person that's listening. Space is the breath of art. The more space you can allow, the more spacious your performance is, the more effective it will be, the more auditions that you'll get, the more jobs that you'll get. Try me out on that one. It took me years, and I'm still learning to do that after 17 years full-time work. It's hard to change your DNA, Um, the way you get wired early on in your life is it's hard. And I have to be very mindful of that. I have to be very conscious of that. And I try to use that philosophy not just in voiceover, but in my life to allow space. Allow space. It is so incredibly important. My younger years, there was no time for space. No time for space. It was boom, boom, from this to that to this. I'm not talking about work, just work. I'm talking about my life was just wall to wall. And if one of the things that I would do over again, if I could, I would purposefully schedule and allow time for space. I would have not committed myself to everything that everybody asked me to do, because I think life is better, relationships are better, everything is better when you allow a little bit of space in your life. I think it's so easy to feel that there's some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, virtue, some sort of virtue in just doing more and doing more and doing more, when really life gets better when you can allow that space to be there and things aren't you're not always pushing. You're not always pushing. You're just allowing things to be. You're seeing things, you're hearing things, you're understanding, you're communicating. It just makes everything better. And it certainly will in your voiceover as well. I know I kind of went off into a little bit of philosophical foo-foo land there, but forgive me for that. But I think it all applies, and that's why I've kind of made this a broad-based thing this morning, because it applies in all areas of life. But it will certainly make your voiceover better. It will allow people to better connect with, resonate with, and understand, and will get you more work in the end. Okay, let's see who we've got in the live stream this morning. Nephi, what's up? Number one this morning, first in. Congratulations, Dave in New York. What's going on, Dave? Mike in Matawan, New Jersey, Rebecca in Michigan. We've got Phil in Tokyo. Good evening to you. Corey says it's still 10 below in Whitehall, Wisconsin. What's up, Rob Ryder? Hope you're doing well today. Rusty, good morning to you in the UP of Michigan. Finally got a bunch of snow and it's 22, minus 22 wind chill. Yikes. David says, good morning from Gardner, Kansas. It's great to be on, first on, but I wouldn't know. LOL. Well, David, one of these days, one of these days. Ethan, good morning to you from cold Toronto, Sirius in Charlotte, Dennis in Long Island, Mandy in snowy Westchester, Pennsylvania, Bradford in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Good morning, Tyler in Springfield, Ohio. We've got Miss Johnny in Texas, Houston specifically. MG is in North Carolina, Sandra in Dallas, Fort Worth, Sandra in another Sandra in London, Ontario, Danielle in Fort Wayne, Bill in Idaho, Mike in South Alabama, where it is freezing, Bob in Reidsville, North Carolina, Mark in Estes Park, Colorado, Jim, good morning to you in Fort Wayne, Melissa in San Diego, Jolie in Minnesota, working on my new audiobook. So glad for all your help, Bill. Oh, Jolie, congrats. That's awesome. Jolie, who is in my voiceover blueprint training program, went full time. And it's always so fun to see a student transition into full-time voiceover. And I know Jolie got her first big audiobook job just recently, and now you're picking up another one and you're gaining some momentum. And I love seeing that, Jolie. Congratulations to you. Very proud of you. John in Rhinebeck, New York. Aaron in Columbia, Missouri. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention before, if you're interested in finding out more about the voiceover blueprint or any of my voiceover training resources, I've got links as always below in the description. Aaron in Columbia, Missouri, Sandra, Amy in Altoona, Pennsylvania, Keith in Renton, Washington. Theo says, good morning to all from downtown Chicago, where breathing today means risking ice forming inside your nose. Oh, I bet. Dale in Atlanta. Theo says, the music is not in the notes, but in the silence between, attributed to Mozart. Very well, there we go. There, that adds a little credibility to the whole argument, doesn't it? Matt, good morning to you in snowy central New Jersey. Sandra says, woohoo in Worthington, got a second book, repeat client at 4 times the money. That's a bell ringer right there. That is fantastic, Sandra. Congrats. Wow. A new book at 4 times the money. I love it when a plan comes together. Marlene says, good morning, especially since I caught you live from Fresno, California. Hey, Marlene, good to have you here. Kenneth, apple cinnamon mixed with hot cocoa will take care of any flu bug. Positive vibes to you. I don't know, but it kind of sounds good. Hello, Kevin from Hillsboro, Ohio, on a cool drive listening. John says, silence is the most impactful part of the soundtrack. Yes. Wally says, hear you, Bill. Snowy Annapolis, Maryland. Anthony, it's 40 degrees above in Phoenix this morning. Mark, Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I like that. David says, "You are indeed a true coach. Sharing what you have mastered over your career is not only fruitful for us, but generous beyond the norm." Thank you again. Thank you, David. I appreciate the kind remark. Jason, you always say you're not an acting coach, but you give great coaching that applies just as much. Oops, sorry. The stream moved. YouTube moved the stream. It's telling me to move on. Okay, Jason said, "You always say you're not an acting coach, but you give great coaching that applies just as much to acting." Well, thank you, Jason. Let's see here. We got Jared in Wisconsin. Can we ever get more sneak peek coaching vids? Well, I'll tell you a way to get that is get in the voiceover blueprint because everything I do, I stream as long as it's not under a non-disclosure. So all my directed sessions, all my auditions, whatever it is, I stream all that stuff in there. I might be able to get something out here that I can share sometime in the near future. Well, I'll see what I can do about that. I'll see what I can do about that. But again, if you want the daily stuff, just something to keep in mind. We got Marie. It's been a while. I hope you are blessed. I am. Thank you, Marie. Good morning from Christopher in Dubuque. Jimmy in Chicago. Jimmy Sticks, STYX. Is that a reference to the band Styx, who, of course, originated from the Chicago area? Scotty, good morning to you in Brookings, South Dakota. Joe, hello there in Nairobi. Dean in Portland, Oregon. Scotty, 3 audiobooks at once. Woo, that's a lot. 3 audiobooks at once. Wow. Let's see here. We got a beginner here from New York. Just got my first equipment. That's awesome. Congrats. Thanks for your encouragement. Yesterday, updated my website. Emma in Southern California. Emma, way to go. Kathleen says, good morning from Evanston, Wyoming. Dan says, "Hey, Bill, it's been a while." Hey, Dan, how are you doing? It has been a while. Back in the saddle after a long family emergency. Good to hear. Good to be here from Clarkston, Michigan. Dan, I hope things are going well. It is good to see you on this morning. Hey, Nico, good morning to you or good afternoon to you in Germany. Jimmy Sticks says, "No, that's my real name." And it almost sounds, and no offense, but like a gangster name. How, it's like Jimmy Sticks, Bobby Bruise, Bob, those kind of cool last names, Jimmy Sticks, but STYX made me think of the band. Eddie started working on my DIY demo yesterday. Eddie, way to go. Jimmy says, "I haven't watched in a while, but since joining SAG, it's been like starting all over again." Yeah, that is a hard row to hoe right there. Um, I won't get off onto that whole thing, union versus non-union, but yeah. Let's see here. I think we've got everybody. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it as always. Remember, today, just make a mental note that space is a good thing. Silence is a good thing. Always start slow. Even if it needs to be faster, that's fine. And if you're a copywriter, by the way, you can start implementing this stuff immediately. Less is more. Have a great day. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.